Maneva I say ma Pen Dream TV. Pen Dream TV there o see them yopo.
Long demonstration by the National Democratic Congress on the e-levy, and they called it Yentia. We had news that a radio presenter, Kwabena Bobiansa, had been arrested. I don't want to count the number of people who had been arrested in this very short time. But like I always say, intimidation of any form will not win. It will not win because each time you talk about press freedom and you talk about the freedom of speech, you are told that, oh, under President Kufuor, when Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo was the Attorney General, the repeal of the criminal libel law was made possible. That's the feather in the cap. So now the question on my mind this morning is, and I'm no lawyer, I'll not pretend to be a lawyer, but at least the remnants of my media law and ethics and media ethics and regulation that I studied in school teach me that there are cases that are civil and there are cases that are criminal, and that all criminal cases are prosecuted by the state. And individuals can take on other individuals if they feel that their images or whatever it is had been slighted, slandered, and for whatever reason, for libel, if you like. Let's put it in a big bracket. Now, I don't know the reason for which Bobiansa had been picked up. And I don't know the reason. I don't want to hazard a guess. But that kind of Rambo style under a democratic leader, a human rights lawyer who is credited with helping to repeal or leading the charge to repeal the criminal libel law, makes me think, after all, is the Chief Justice not in court with another another lawyer over an alleged $5 million bribery? That's a civil matter. So, for example, if somebody writes, and I'm not in any way supporting whatever he wrote, but I'm saying if somebody writes and says that Jonnie Hughes is a thief, and he's so corrupt and he collects money, like you find other grown-ups sit on other networks to say, and they're attacking and say, oh, Jonnie Hughes has a child here, Jonnie Hughes smokes weed, Jonnie Hughes is this, Jonnie Hughes is that, and they say all those things. I don't take them on because there's no fact to it, and they have not been able to substantiate their claims. And I don't have time for old people who begin to think like young people. But I'm saying that if somebody makes a case against you or somebody says something that you don't like, slanders you, the courts are open for you to go there. So in this particular case, if it is true that what the gentleman said is what it is, and I'll reiterate, I'm not supporting whatever he said because I don't have the full details. But I'm asking, if that is the basis for his arrest, what is the interest of the state in that matter? Is it not within the domain of a civil matter? And you see, these are some of the things that the government does, or elements of the government does, that seem to take the shine away from some of the things they are doing, which they so vehemently and so forcefully press some of us to say, talk about it and praise us. I cannot praise you when I feel oppressed and suppressed. I will not praise you. I will not praise you if I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel safe. And each time my wife asks me, don't you get scared? I say, well, it's only a matter of time. One day I may finish Johnny's Bite or finish TV3 New Day or finish Community Connect. I may never get home because somebody somewhere thinks that he has to be picked up for whatever reason. So we need to watch that. And we need to watch it because that defense of when people say, oh, there's the culture of silence, and then the quick defense is that, but we helped to repeal the criminal libel law. If this had happened under Jerry Rawlings, who is a straight military leader who sharply transitioned into a democratic leader, that's no problem. But you know that around those times, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the Victor Newmans of blessed memory, the Kweku Bakus, the Kwesi Prats, the Tony Sheshes and all of that, they led demonstrations. They led demonstrations because the Kumsins and all those other big journalists and our seniors had faced similar things. Of course, the criminal libel law was still in place, but as we speak, it's been repealed. So again, I'm asking this question. What is the interest of the state in what looks like a civil case? And I'm not a lawyer, but that's the question I'm asking. And I'm saying that, is it being done or targeted at people who have dissenting voices against the government and are asking critical questions of the government? Because if you look at the people who have been picked up so far, you will find that their voices are not in favor with what government is doing. It takes me back to 1995 when Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo was a spokesperson for the Kumipreku demonstration, where he said the policies of the government have not found favor with the general masses of the people. I don't want to even talk about our GJ, because a colleague journalist and a producer at Connect FM was beaten by some unruly security people. Was beaten to pulp. I showed you the videos and the photos. It's taking our GJ 1 full week after that horrible incident to write. So they will write, we condemn it in no uncertain terms, and that's it. Who wants to be part of an association that says we condemn it in no uncertain terms, and that's it? My 12-year-old niece can write that statement, and that's it. I condemn it in no uncertain terms. And so what? And then what? And then what? So that's my first issue. Yesterday was a demonstration in the Greater Accra region. The NDC Youth Wing had organized what they call the Yentia demonstration. So it's a question of e-levy, we will pass it, versus Yentia. It looks like the government is firm in its belief that, look, we need the e-levy. And the government is insisting that we need the e-levy. But you see, the actions of the government itself raises a lot of questions. The government, and apologies to Murtala Mohammed, the government is asking us to tighten our belts, but the government is wearing trousers without belt hooks. The government is asking us to tighten our belts because we are not in normal times, but the government is wearing loose trousers without belt hooks. And the government is expanding. The government is expanding. The government is spending. I'm sure you are aware our president is not in town. Oh, you are not aware? Our president of the republic is not in town. He's on a 10-day working trip. That's how they put it. Now, my information, and is it true, for example, that the private jet that we've been talking about, which costs for travel we've been asking of, which we've been told is a matter of national security, even though it's a politician's dream and the taxpayer's burden, came into town on Wednesday, waited a full day Wednesday, and traveled with the president on Thursday. That particular plane charges us $15,000 per hour. 15,000 pounds, sorry, per hour. 15,000 pounds per hour. I don't have time to do the math. You do the math. Pick your calculator. Calculus. How much is 1 pound this morning? It's more than 8 cedis. The pound has broken the 8. So let's even say that the pound is just 8 cedis. Let's put a round figure to it. Because if you add the others, you may get a heart attack this morning. But put a pound, 8 cedis, 1 pound. 8 cedis. If you want a pound and you walk into a forex bureau, they will ask you to give them more than 8 cedis to be able to get 1 pound. We're paying 15,000 pounds per hour for that private jet that the president runs along, while we have a presidential plane sitting down, presidential jet sitting down. And the excuse is that it cannot travel beyond a certain, mileage and altitude, blah, blah, blah. All those things have been said to us. Now, so let's do the mathematics. Pick it. 15,000 times 8. What did you get? 120,000. That's what my producer said. 120,000 times 24 hours, because that's what we have in a day. 15,000 times 8 times 24 hours. How much, Danny? 2 million. 1 day. 2 million. More than that. Times 10 days of that travel, because it will wait for the president. 15,000 pounds times 8 times 24 times 10 days. Mind you, there was one more day that the plane came to wait. So 11 days. So 15,000 times 8 times 24 times 10. Danny, how much? 28 million and excess of that. Now, that is just for plane. When the president goes, he doesn't sleep in somebody's house. The president will go and sleep in a hotel. Obviously, it will be a 4-star, 5-star hotel because he's a president. Big man. So the president is asking us to tighten our belt. His finance minister is going around with the information minister and other government officials telling people about the E levy, the E level, the E label, the Y level, whatever it is you want to call it. They are forcefully convincing people to pay the E levy. And they tell us that whatever 6 billion we raise out of that will change our lives. It has the magic wand. It will change our lives. Our roads will be better. Our hospitals. Amakwata says all our contractors will pay. Blah, blah. We're just talking. But this is just one aspect of the expenditure. Then he opened for me the table of the budget, the 2022 budget, that appendix that's showing how much the presidency alone is taking for this year alone. I've given you the calculation for the plane. I don't have time to add hotel, per diem, food, and all other things that will be added onto it. I don't have time to add it, but you do the maths. And you can put a round figure to it. Danny, this is it. Appendix 4B, Summary of MD Expenditure Allocation 2023. Now, this is it. Office of Government Machinery. Yesterday, an old man spoke passionately. And he says, you're asking the people to generate 6 billion for you. But you're spending 3 billion. 3 billion to run the Office of Government Machinery. Then he played a video of the septuagenarian, the 74-year-old ex-serviceman. And he spoke from the depth of his heart and soul. Listen to him. The old man. He said he was not supposed to be out there. And he said that he had never seen this since 1969 when Professor Buzia was in power. Mind you, the MPP is of the same stock. And the argument at 1969 was that Professor Buzia was not performing. He was not scratching the people where they were itching. He was not doing what the people wanted. Are you wondering why all our doctors and our nurses are leaving for the UK? Have you wondered why all our doctors and nurses are leaving for the UK? Because they don't want to be treated like UTAG, where they finish teaching and your intellectual community is begging for better bread. And the parents of the children are spending money and getting no value for it because the children have been in school for more than 5 weeks. Yesterday, the university students, they were out there on the streets. What were the argument? The argument is that we're paid for hostel fees, we are paid our school fees, we're spending, we are eating, we're spending money on transport, blah, blah, blah. But nobody is teaching us anything because their lecturers are demanding for better bread. And the last time I showed you the example of Belarus, our GDP is far better than that of Belarus. How much do they pay their lecturers there? How much do we pay our lecturers here? So our doctors are migrating, they are leaving. I showed you the deplorable state of the Likpe Bakwa Hospital. We have elevated the Hohoe Government Hospital to a regional hospital. So the next thing was to have raised Likpe to a district hospital. We have not been able to do that. And no doctor will go and work there. No doctor will go and work in those leaking facilities. No doctor. So find me the 74-year-old man. He was in a red shirt. And yesterday when he walked to me, he had a VOA shirt. I thought usually when we go on such demonstrations, you see either VOA or BBC or DW come to you and ask, oh, sorry, what does the terrain look like and all of that. Sorry. So yesterday when he walked up to me, I thought he was one of those. Then he said he had something to say. He's a septuagenarian, just like the president. The president is also 78 now, right? So this is 74. So what he knows, the president knows. Or vice versa. He lived through the same times. If you can't find that video now, play the Kayaye video for me. Yesterday I saw some Kayaye. So I asked them 2 questions. I asked them why they were out there on the streets. And they said all the promises that was made to them or that were made to them have not been fulfilled. They reminded me of the hostel. They reminded me of what? Some monies that were promised. Plenty things. A typical case of Nana and Baumia Dadame. And you see, when you think about all these things and you consider what you call it, the spending that is going on, you think of that Lumbe's song, Usunami yo, Usunami ya, Anke Beden na yoya. You are asking poor people to pay e-levy. Nane Champo, sorry about that. Thank you, Bella. Play the video for me.
I have never seen this government before. The whole country become polarized. Why should we pay levy, e-levy? My children, they do send me, they remit me, they have to. Why? Ghana is becoming harder and harder. That is why I am forced to be here today, to protect, to let the people know that we are suffering, especially education. My grandchildren are no better education. You go for school 3 weeks and you come and stay home for 3 months. Well, I've never seen this education before. This government, he must eat a humble prayer. He must go away. It's a very lazy government.
But we're in a democracy until 2024. You cannot say the government should go away.
No.
For about demonstration,
yes, we are Unchiria. And yet me to say, yes, you have a demonstration. And I mean, me quite beside no Amusi and demonstration. And I miss the end demonstration. Almost see tax. And I miss oh, say no dia. And no day, yes, we are Kahubi. And I draw Matimaya, dear. I organize on. And that's an anti Nayabano. That's now see a veteran. Yanisika Okroma when Yakaya. Yes, we are here to mana to be sending a crani say, Nimami one off. Ete Wamami said this camera. Not a Siasicana Mina Okrom and also. And a mess out to your tax. I ain't Nebeka. I'm a Mimamieti.
That's a Kaya. She's frustrated. And yesterday, you could tell the frustration on their faces. There were women who were carrying stones on their heads. So I asked them, what are you going to do with the stones? They said, we are going to give it back to Mahama. Mahama, Bayote. Because you told us that we didn't listen to you. I shall protect the public purse. Is failing to be accountable. And he shrouds it in national security. You are traveling on behalf of the country. You say it's an official visit. Official travel. You are spending my resources. Time for you to account to us, and you tell us it is national security. So you ask you ask Foreign Affairs Minister, he says, go and ask Defense Minister. You ask he says, go and ask Foreign Affairs Minister. You finish it, go to National Security Minister. So you are just tossing the people around. And you see, the Vice President is acting now. The President is gone. The Vice President is acting. The Vice President's loud silence on the e-levy, even as the head of the economic management team, is so deafening. Because whatever it is that will happen with all the Bible verses that Mr. Konoforiata will quote and tell us about his upbringing and give us anecdotes and tell us how every Ghanaian should be paying for it. And he's surprised that free SHS graduates are not supporting the e-levy. They won't support the e-levy because I take care of a free SHS person. That individual is in